them. Joel was the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State in the Obama administration. He's also running for Congress in Maryland. Thank you so much, Joel, for being here. We just heard from Doha officials basically saying, look, we believe that we're going to be able to extend this. It has not been official. It has not been sanctioned just yet. But after these next hostages come out, they're hoping for the next couple of days, though the IDF has said very clearly with the backing of Netanyahu that it's getting ready to resume its military campaign against Hamas when the truce ends. What are the chances, do you think, of this being extended for more than just a day or two?
Well, Sarah, I believe that you're right. We're going to get a couple more days of extension, but everybody's on a hair trigger right now, so the pressure is only increasing for there to be a further extension. But it really depends upon Hamas's goodwill, and that's a very difficult place to be because Hamas does not engage in goodwill. Hamas is engaging in a very strategic maneuver right now to release kidnapped Israelis in order to get a pause in military action that has been waged against it by Israel. So for Hamas, the calculation is do they need more time? And I think that's why we're seeing day-by-day agreements rather than the larger sort of chunk that we had at the beginning of 4 full days. That uncertainty will continue, and I think Hamas likes it that way. But then, of course, they also have their internal difficulties with identifying where people may be because we know that they're spread about potentially with criminal gangs and other terrorist organizations inside Gaza. So this is just a very tenuous situation. I can't emphasize that enough, depending on Hamas's decision-making to determine how much longer we're going to have this truce for.
It is so delicate. It is so tenuous. And it gives anyone just listening to this anxiety, just wondering when the next group may or may not be let out. I do want to talk to you about the difficulties going forward because it is believed there are enough women and children that Hamas has a hold of to extend the truce just by a couple of days so that they can be released. But then the discussion is going to turn to men and those who are current IDF soldiers. Some of the men are former soldiers because so many people in Israel have to go into the military. So how difficult will this be? Do you see there being a possibility of men, Israelis, being set free?
You know, Sarah, this is the question that's given everyone fear. This trade potentially of Israeli soldiers. In the past, we saw a soldier released, Gilad Shalit, over a decade ago. He was one single Israeli traded for 1,027 Hamas fighters. So the price is probably going to go up. That's my fear. We've seen this 3-to-1 ratio of Palestinians who are in Israeli prisons being released for one kidnapped hostage. Over women and children. That ratio is likely going to change significantly, and I think that's where we're going to hit the real roadblocks, and then we're going to see the Israeli military pressure reassert itself. We have to make sure that all the women and children get out. Just think about it. Babies are still kidnapped and in captivity. What's the purpose of this? It's only about keeping Hamas in a safe space and away from Israeli fire. But I think it's going to be very difficult to envision a 3-to-1 ratio exchange for those men.
You make a really good point because in the case of IDF soldier Gilad Shalit, he was in for 5.5 years before that agreement was made, and the exchange was a lot more people, more than 1,000 Palestinian prisoners. I do want to lastly ask you just about this complication. We had heard from Hamas that the Bibas family, you've got a 10-month-old and a 4-year-old who are being held with their parents still, and Hamas is saying that they don't have control of them anymore. What is that going to mean for negotiations to try and get this family and these 2 babies out of Gaza?
The idea that Hamas has stolen babies is one that should shock the senses of anybody who's been watching this, as I know how closely you have been and we all have been. The fact that they don't know where this baby is just points to the reality that they took human beings as war booty to trade and give out. And now they've lost that individual, and I fear they don't know how to find that baby, and I fear that that's going to create just an ongoing level of uncertainty. And they are trading in human beings at the expense of all of our humanity. And so this has been an ongoing discussion, a concern that they have given these people out. And the fact they can't get them back means they've really lost control of the situation. And I fear we're going to have a hard time getting good news on this front.
All right. Joel Rubin, thank you so much for joining us today and talking us through this. Kate.